On this episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive, we are defying the rules for collectible cars. I'm going to show you a four-door economy-based sedan that's a good investment. Welcome everyone to another episode of Eat, Sleep, Drive. This is our once a month episode where we feature a car that I'm considering an investment, and that is a car at the bottom of its depreciation, and it's only going to get more valuable from here. Just to go over the quick rules for investment car of the month, you can't pick a car that has already gone up in value or is going up in value, such as an NSX or an air-cooled 911. These are cars that we've already missed the boat on. We're just covering cars that are going to be collectible. Now, most collectible cars follow a very simple formula. They're typically sports cars, and they follow the proportions of a sports car. They have a long hood, a short trunk, and a low roofline. This is just a common formula that designers use for sports cars. But what if I told you this month's investment car of the month is an economy car, and it's actually a four-door sedan? Would you think I'm crazy? Well, consider this. What makes a car collectible to someone? I think more than anything, it's nostalgia. If you talk to a baby boomer who has bought a late 60s Camaro recently, what is it that they say about those cars? They say, oh, I remember when my friend had one and we used to drive it to school every day and I thought it was the best car ever. And now I finally have the funds to own that car. That's a story that you hear over and over with collectible cars. It takes people back to a time when they were younger. It gives them a nostalgic vibe of a different time. So using that logic, I'm going to pick a car that millennials such as myself down the road are going to feel nostalgic about owning. They're going to remember back in the day. And that car is a Mitsubishi Evolution. Like it or not, the Fast and Furious franchise really jump-started a whole new generation of car enthusiasts. And the Evo really embodies that whole tuner car feel of the 2000s, especially when movies like Fast and the Furious were coming out. Now, not only was that car featured in a couple of the movies, there was an Evo 8 and an Evo 9, but it just embodies the tuner culture. The tuner culture of that time was taking an economy car that was already your daily driver and hopping it up, putting speed parts on it. The Evo is the embodiment of that spirit. The Evo was an absolute game changer in the US market when it came out in 2003. That's because it was beating cars that were orders of magnitude more expensive. It was faster than them. It was very modifiable. People loved this car and they still do. And they're going to love this car. They're going to remember that one friend that had one and they're gonna want it one day, and there's not going to be too many left when that time comes. They're fast, they're fun to drive, and they're iconic. They capture an essence of a certain time period, and that to me is the definition of a collectible car. So we've established the Evo is an iconic car, but which one should you buy? If it's my money, I'm going with an Evo 9. Based on my research, the Evo 9 is the most desirable Evo. It is the last of the CT9 chassis, which is the chassis that's shared with an Evo 7, Evo 8, and Evo 9. This is often considered to be the last great Evo. Now, it's certainly debatable whether or not the Evo 9 was the best Evo. However, if you look at the prices that they're demanding, they are more than every other Evo, and that's because people want them, and they didn't make too many of them. There were ballpark around 8,000 Evo 9s made, and that's because they was only made for 1 year. 2006 was the only year of the Evo 9 in the US. Now, the first thing I would be looking for when wanting to find an Evo 9 is one that is rust-free. Rust is the number one enemy of Evos. Mitsubishi is not exactly known for using the highest of quality steel in their automobiles, and that is very apparent with the Evo. If you find a car that was driven in the snow and salt, it's likely going to be super rusted out. You do not want that car. If you're buying a car to keep, and you're buying a car for an investment that's going to be collectible, it's going to need to be clean. So you're going to want to look in the South. If you're in the US, you're going to want to look in the South, or maybe out West, someplace that doesn't use salt on the roads, or find a car that wasn't driven in the winter. Now, these cars are fantastic in the snow. It's sort of a disgrace. I shouldn't say disgrace. It's sort of sad to not be used that way, but it's all about preservation with these cars, and they do not like salt. They will fall apart. As always with investment cars, you're going to want to avoid cars that are heavily modified. You don't want any crazy engine modifications. You don't want any extensive bodywork or anything like that. Keep it simple. Keep it as close to stock as possible. And that can be hard to find on an Evo because these cars are so good at every form of motorsports, rally, road racing, drag racing. You will find them competing in all of those for good reason because they're very good at it. But that just makes it harder and harder to find stock version. But once you find a stock version, trust me, it'll be worth it. It'll be more collectible in the end. Now, guys, I've picked a good example online of an Evo 9 for sale that I think is a good buy because it meets all the criteria which I just talked about. So let's dive into it. I'm going to show you guys what you need to be looking for if you want a keeper Evo. Okay, so here is my example of what I think is a good candidate to be a collectible car in the future. I am on evolutionm.net, which is the sort of de facto standard for Evos. This is the place where everyone goes for Evo forums. You could definitely check Craigslist or things like Facebook groups. You can find deals on both of those, but I tend to find cleaner cars, more well cared for cars, more potentially collectible cars on the forums. This is a 2006 Evo 9 MR. Now, the MR is the top of the line model for the Evo, and there is some debate in the Evo community as to which is better because the MR has a 6-speed transmission and it does have a reputation of not being quite as durable as a 5-speed, but I don't quite think that's as big of a deal. I think this is a good candidate. MR is just as good as an SE in my opinion from a collectability standpoint. But first and foremost, like I said with Evos and Rust, I'm going to look at where the car is from. Car is located in Orlando, Florida. Perfect. It's in the South. It hasn't seen rust probably. It's a second owner, which is fantastic. Like, it's really hard to find these cars with few owners. Ideally, you'd find the original owner, but that's so few and far between these days. So second owner, and it's got low mileage, 40,000 miles, super low for an over 10-year-old car. Now, it does have some basic bolt-ons, turbo back, intake, coilovers, stuff like that. But check this out. Car will come with OEM parts, including USDM rear bumper, stock exhaust, etc. So you can definitely turn this back to stock like it was because this guy's got all the parts. And hey, check it out. You could also sell those parts if you want to as well. Now, I'm looking at this car. It looks super clean. It looks super well kept. One thing to note is white is a pretty desirable color for these cars. So to me, this is a home run. I mean, look at how clean this thing is. The interior looks super clean. Clearly somebody has taken good care of this. The carbon fiber on these, on the wing is the clear coat is absolutely known to peel. So this thing looks really clean, really well kept. I would highly suggest this for someone looking for an Evo 9 as an investment. Well, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope you found this video informative. As always, leave me a comment below. Let me know what you think, whether or not the Evo 9 is going to be a collectible car or not. And if you enjoyed the video, tune in next time for Investment Car of the Month.